Hey, what's going on, everyone? I am back for another Slim Sports interview. And as always, I'm your host, Jay Slim. And joining me today is a 6'4" guard from the North Alabama Lions that took the Division One level by storm this past year, grabbing awards, grabbing some championships, and helping his team all throughout the season. I'm talking about the rebounding machine from the Lions, Taye Fields. What's going on, Taye?
What's going on? Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Excited to have you on. You had such a great year in your first year at the Division One level playing for North Alabama. Got to reunite with some old teammates from your high school days and obviously go off and have an historic season for that program. And I want to talk about some of the accolades and the championships that I mentioned in a quick segment that I like to call Rewind and Recap, where I'm just going to rewind the clock back to the end of the regular season where you guys ended up leading North Alabama to be co-champions of the ASUN regular season. You yourself, being one of the best players in the entire conference, you were named All-ASUN second team selection. And being new to the conference, you were also named ASUN Newcomer of the Year for 2025. So absolutely incredible, the accolades there. And then you guys also led North Alabama to their first ever bid into the NIT tournament. Got to be a part of the 2025 NIT tournament for the first time for that program. So history being made, a lot of accolades, a whole lot for yourself for a guy that's a newcomer for this program that's having a lot of returners come back. Jakari Lane came back for another year. Daniel Ortiz returned, and they had quite a few veterans that have been there for 4 or 5 years throughout their college careers. As one of those newcomers for the program, what was that like for you to really get used to their culture, their system, to be able to make an impact right away?
I think all that credit goes to the coaching staff and like you said, the returners, guys like Dallas Howell, see Jakari Lane, Cannon Jefferson, they were there the year before, so they could have, had big egos and, been like, this is our team, but they were real selfless throughout the whole process. It was really welcoming. It was like, I was playing there for all 4 years. So a credit to those guys to, really putting the team first and everything and having a great coaching staff too. Coach Pujol, Coach Amaz Smith, Austin Burnett, Carter Heston, and Sean Foley. Those guys made an incredible impact on the culture and how things were done this year. So I give a credit to all to them. So I really appreciate them for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were able to help get you acclimated to the system early on to where you could put up some crazy numbers, 11.2 points, 8.6 rebounds, 3.5 assists while shooting well over 50% from the field. You had some outstanding performances during the regular season, 23 points and 17 boards against Stetson, had 21.7 rebounds and 7 assists going against Jacksonville, and then 16 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists versus North Florida. So you were able to score, rebound, facilitate, obviously defended at a high level as well, earning you those second team All ASUN honors. And one of your teammates in Jakari Lane was first team All ASUN, a guy that you know very well because you guys played high school ball together, which I thought was absolutely incredible when I read that on your bio on the website. Shout out to your guys' SID for including that information. How did having that long time connection with Jakar, obviously knowing each other for so many years, you guys were apart at different colleges for a while, now you're reuniting. How would you say that helped you when it came to blending into the system to where you could put up the numbers that you did and he could also continue to be the dominant player that he was?
I think it was like made known early. Like I wasn't coming here to try to take his spotlight. I made it known early, like this was still his team. You know what I'm saying? So whatever I could do to help him to get over the hump, like I was willing to do. So we just had that connection of like whatever he needed and whatever the team needed, I was willing to do that for him. So I think that's where it came at. Like I said, it was no egos involved. Like everybody understood what the mission was for the whole entire year for the team. So I think us being able to do that, recognize it, and then put it into action was a big part of that.
Yeah, and you guys both were all ASUN selections. Daniel Ortiz was all ASUN third team as well. You Cornelius Williams, in my opinion, he if the Malcolm Wilson kid for Queens didn't average, the most blocks in the entire country, I feel like Williams definitely would have been Defensive Player of the Year. He was outstanding. I got to see you guys all play in person. And one thing that I took notice of when I watched you guys play in person at FGCU was the continuity that you guys had. You guys always knew where each other were. You guys really had a great bond on the court. How would you say that continuity among this North Alabama team this past season, the blend that you guys had with everyone's style of play, really allowed you guys to get the season started off on a strong note and never put two losses together? Because I believe that only happened once in the regular season where you guys had two losses back to back.
I think that comes with off the court chemistry as well. We had a great bond this year, I would say, off the court with our team. And then I think that really translated onto the court. It wasn't, teams usually, you have like cliques or whatever that, a few guys go over here, a few guys go over there. But I feel like everybody, bonded with each other from all the way from the starters to the people that walked on. So I think that played a huge part with everybody being able to have a voice on the team. Like, I think that's very important where nobody is bigger than the next guy. So I think that was real, real big for us this year. Like I said, it was no egos. Everybody did what they were supposed to do. Everybody was really bought in. So I think our chemistry off the court most definitely played a huge factor to our chemistry on the court.
That is awesome to hear. And obviously, that led you guys to so much success, and that led you to a whole lot of highlight plays throughout the season. And I want to talk about some of those highlights in a segment that I like to call Make That Play, where I went through synergy. I looked at all of the made baskets you had, especially some of these posterizing dunks that I'm going to talk about in what I feel like are your top three plays from this past season. But obviously, I'm just a stats guy, I'm just a fan in the stands. You're actually the one on the court doing what you do best. So what do you feel like was your top play from this past season?
My top play, I would probably say probably North Florida. That would probably be my favorite player this year. It was like at the end of the game. They made a big run coming back, and then I made it was like an isolation on the I think the right wing, and I got a layup to like seal the deal. So I think that'll probably be one. And then I don't know, probably a block versus Queens too, because I like to play defense. So my block versus Queens that I had, that was probably one of my favorite plays too.
Hey, there you go. Obviously, you make plays on both ends, and the three that I have were some rim rattlers where you were trying to bring the rim down with you. And there's two of them on here where you actually had dunks on some of my guys that I've had on the podcast, and I'm gonna send them this so they can see that you were the one that slammed it on them. But the first one is going against Eastern Kentucky, where you took it coast to coast at home, going against the Colonels, and you went down right the middle of the paint. And Evans Paul, who's a good friend of mine, I've had him on. He's an incredible shot blocker. He was not blocking that dunk because you went up and you just slammed it right on his head, and he went backwards. So sorry, Evans, you got dunked on. Number two, another coast to coast, right down the middle for another huge dunk going against Jacksonville in the ASUN semifinals, where obviously that game mattered the most going to the championship game, trying to, keep doing your thing. You wanted to make an impact, help lead your team to another win, and boom, once again had a big time dunk. And then number three, fast break slam against UT Martin, going against Terrence Ginyard. I've had him on as well. Got a lot of love for him. Another guy that got dunked on by you there because uh, he was the only player to really come in and try to defend you. And you
Yeah.
said, nah, we're putting this in the hoop. Slammed it on him and really opened up the game to just kind of take on the lead and go off and get that win over the Skyhawks. So you were able to dominate, like I mentioned before, in all facets of the game. But one thing about this team especially was the rebounding ability. First in rebounds in the conference, also second in points, third in points allowed, fourth in field goal percentage. So really just dominated every facet of the game. But the rebounds especially, you ranked second individually in the entire conference in rebounds per game, only behind your teammate in Cornelius Williams, where you guys were one of only two duos, I believe, in the entire country to have 300 plus rebounds in a season. Talk to me real quick about the rebounding factor for North Alabama with you, Williams. I know Jakari and Daniel Ortiz, as undersized guards, they were always willing to get rebounds as well. How did that rebound factor play into the success that you guys had?
I think it played a big part. It gave us kind of like an identity as a team that we were going to be real gritty. So Coach Ahmad Smith, he was big on that. Don't lose what keeps us winning. So me and Cornelius, we took pride in rebounding. You know, every night's going to be a night where we're going to score because you have a guy like Jakari Lane that can go get you 30. You know, you have a guy like DJ that can make 8 threes in a heartbeat. So, you know, sometimes a night might not be for you to score, but it's so many other ways to affect the game. So me and him, we took pride in that. Like you said, Chakari and them, they'll come down and get rebounds when we needed help sometimes. Will Susi, Dante Bacchus. So those guys are also real gritty, tough players. So, you know, that I think that was a part of our identity this year as a team.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, you guys were top three in the entire ASUN in points scored and points allowed as a team. For a team that went 24 and 11 overall on the season, 14 and 4 in ASUN action, made it to the 2025 NIT tournament, obviously made it to the championship game in the ASUN tournament. You guys ended up beating Jacksonville in the semifinals 78 to 63, beat Austin P in a blowout win 90 to 64 in the quarterfinals. And you guys actually beat Lipscomb in regular season action, so you knew you could compete with them. You guys unfortunately had some injuries going into that championship game, but beat Lipscomb in the regular season 74 to 64. So you guys were able to compete with the best of the best. And veteran guys like yourself, Daniel, Jakari, guys that have been around the block a couple of times, have high level IQ, high level intangibles. You guys were able to contribute to that work on both ends. So as a veteran guy, from an IQ and intangibles point of view, what was it about this team that made it so effective on both ends?
Like you said, like having guys that are like veterans that have played, you know, 4 years in college, 3 years in college, 5 years in college, you know, that's been through the road. I think that played a huge part because, you know, it might be some things that, you know, like controlling the game, knowing that you're always in it, know how to, you know, manage a game. You know, some guys when you could be a really talented freshman or a really talented sophomore, but you just don't know that piece of the game yet because you haven't been through it. So I think having veteran guys like that or guys that have played through college for a long time and in that league for a long time, like Shakari was year 3, DJ that was year 3, Seuss year 5, D House year 5, and then like, even a guy like Blake Floyd, one of our walk-ons, like very intelligent. So I think having guys like that on the court and off the court that's on the bench telling you things is very important.
Yeah, and you guys obviously made that run in the ASUN tournament, obviously blowing out Austin P, getting a double figure win over Jacksonville to really make it known, hey, we're not here to just play around. We're here to win the whole thing. And competed with Lipscomb, you know, all the way to the very end. Daniel Ortiz obviously missed that game, unfortunately, because of injury. And I know you got a couple other players were battling through some injuries, had some tough spots. Lipscomb obviously came out on top, unfortunately. But talk me about this incredible run that you guys went on to go off and have a shot at making it to the first ever national tournament for UNA.
It was amazing. You know, we didn't take a day for granted. You know, having guys, you know, that it was their last year that knew, you know, it was do or die. We never took a day for granted. So every practice, every film session, every moment we got a chance to, you know, be around each other, we took that and we really enjoyed it. So I think having, you know, great teammates like that you can be around 24/7, having a coaching staff that really cares about you, that was amazing this year, how we, you know, were able to stay focused and stay locked in every single day. You enjoyed coming to practice, you know, and being around your guys. You enjoyed going to lift weights with your guys. So I think that was a huge thing for this year.
I know the fans, including myself, loved watching North Alabama play. And obviously, I keep mentioning this word history because that is what was made for North Alabama. Obviously, they haven't been a Division I school for very long, I believe only 5 or 6 years, but they have risen so quickly, so fast, in big part because of guys like yourself, Jakari, Dio, and I mean, first ASUN regular season championship in program history. First time they had three all ASUN players in the same year, and obviously the first ever NIT appearance where you guys played, I believe it was Bradley in that first round. As a guy where, you were a newcomer. This was your only year with North Alabama. Obviously it means a lot more probably to Jakari and Do, but it still does mean a lot to you to be able to contribute to that history. How do you reflect on this past season for yourself, and what do you feel like it means for this program moving forward?
Um, I feel like it means a lot. At the end of the day, we play the game that we love, but it's way bigger than us. You know what I'm saying? So like the city of Florence, that was a great city. You come in, it's not as big, you know what I'm saying? It's a small town, but it's so much love in that city from top to bottom, from the adults to the kids. And, putting that smile on those kids' faces, going around the town and seeing people recognize you and honestly just seeing us have a positive effect on that place, that was really the big part for me. So going around, we had the little radio shows at Lost Pizza and seeing everybody smiling, having a good time, like that puts a good feeling in your heart. So just seeing that we had a positive effect and I was able to be a part of that, like that's a blessing at the end of the day. So hopefully, they have some great guys this year, like you said, a lot of returners, and hopefully they can do that again because they have a great support system around them and a great coaching staff as well.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of great things moving forward for the Lions, and they have a lot of great players like yourself, Jakari, Dio, who I keep mentioning, who I've had on in the past as well, where you guys were kind of hidden gems and really got to shine your light in the Division One ranks this past season, doing what you guys do best. Jakari Lane very well could have been ASUN Player of the Year. I was kind of shocked he wasn't, but the guy from Lipscomb, outstanding player as well by him. But guys like yourselves, I'm always trying to get you guys on so you can tell your story, so you can get your names out there even more. And I can do my part to get your names out there because I know from watching your game in person, people need to know your name. You're an outstanding athlete and a human being, I can tell from this podcast. And that's why I have this segment that I like to call Who's Up Next, where you can actually give me some recommendations for people that I can have on the podcast, people to reach out to. There are two rules, though. First, whoever you recommend, you got to help me reach out, got to help me get them on. And
Yeah.
number two, I do need at least one name where they were not a teammate from North Alabama this past season.
Okay. So from the guys that aren't at North Alabama, I want to say Chase McCarty. He's at the University of Houston. So, that's my guy. He's most definitely up next. Like like you just said, he's a great athlete, but an even greater person, comes from a great family. And so that I feel like people need to, keep an eye on him. So I think he's up next. And then from UNA, Cannon Jefferson, I feel like he's gonna make a huge jump this year. We're pretty tough on him a lot in a lot of situations. Like we were real tough on him this season for sure. But I feel like that's only gonna mold him to be better. Dante Bacchus, I feel like he's gonna another guy that's gonna take a huge leap. And honestly, everybody on that team, you know what I'm saying? Like I love all those guys from top to bottom. Darkon King, um, Kingston Walker, Izzy. And so I feel like C2, it's only a matter of just leveling up. He's gonna average a double double this year. Like he's a double double guy easily. So I feel like everybody on that team is just gonna be a guy to watch out for this year.
Oh, absolutely. Those are all amazing names. No doubt in my mind, Cornelius Williams. I'm calling it right now. He's going to be A-Sun Defensive Player of the Year at least next season. He'll be an all A-Sun guy. Absolutely phenomenal athlete, much like yourself. And you now are looking to continue your career at in some form at some level. So now we got to talk about what's next for you. What's the next step for you as far as, continuing your career, whether that's continuing it one more year in college with one last year of eligibility or taking it to the pros? What would you say is next?
Honestly, once I get this verdict on, the college route, then it'll be the pro route. So I'm just waiting patiently, not stressing about it, putting everything in God's hands and just praying every day on it and then just making sure I stay ready for anything. So I'm staying in the gym, making sure that I get my, conditioning and weights and working out. And, like I said, I'm just waiting for the call or the opportunity or when that happens.
There you go, man. Definitely can't wait to see what's next for you, what happens next season, because no doubt wherever you end up going, you're going to be crashing the boards, getting some dunks, facilitating out, and playing some hard-nosed defense for whatever team you end up playing for, man. So beyond excited to have finally been able to get you on. Been trying for a while. We've been busy. and now able to do this amazing interview. And it's been absolutely outstanding, man. So thank you so much for hopping on the podcast.
No, thank you.